So, Golden State Warriors season preview. Last year, they finished with a 39-33 record, which gave them the 8th seed in the West. They were 20th in offense and fifth in defense, which is a bit surprising given how good Curry was. And they didn't have Klay Thompson, so it was a lot on Curry, and he did carry a lot of the load. The 8th seed meant they were in the play-in tournament. In their first play-in game, they lost to the Lakers, which meant they faced the Grizzlies for the 8th seed, and they lost that game too. So maybe a disappointing end to the season, but I think overall they didn't have super high expectations going into the season, knowing they wouldn't have Klay Thompson, and they did get the 7th and 14th pick, one from Minnesota, the 7th pick, and then their own pick was 14th. And with those picks, they drafted Jonathan Kuminga and Moses Moody. Also this offseason, they lost Kelly Oubre, Kent Bazemore, and Eric Paschall, and they signed Otto Porter Jr., Iguodala, Nemanja Bjelica, and they're also getting Klay back, so that's sort of like a new signing. And their offseason might not be over because they could still trade for a star, whether it's before the season starts or at the trade deadline. Some names that have been rumored are Bradley Beal, Ben Simmons, could be someone else, and they do have the assets between Wiggins' max contract and some young guys like their 2 rookies. They also have future picks, so their offseason might not be over, and they still could trade for a star and upgrade the roster. If I looked at projected starting lineup, at point guard Curry, his numbers last season: 32 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 6 assists. He also shot 42% from 3 on 13 attempts a game, which is just insane. I mean, he was just crazy last year, especially towards the back half of the season. There was just a streak of games where he was just launching threes from anywhere, going crazy. He also had a bit more pick and roll and a bit more, he was more on ball, more creation. It was more of a bigger load on him because they didn't have Klay Thompson or Kevin Durant or players like that who typically took shots away from Steph and took the ball away from Steph. So it was really the Steph show, and looking back, those numbers, they were higher than I expected. He could have won MVP. I think Jokic deserved it, but Curry was just great, and it's a shame the Warriors weren't ready to compete last season, but hopefully they will be this season if they get another season like that from Steph. At the 2 guard, Klay Thompson, he will miss the start of the season. The reports have been that he should be back maybe around Christmas, around the new year, but I think he'll be the starter when he comes back and, come playoff time. He averaged 21.5 points a game his last healthy season, which was 2018-19. So it'll be interesting to see how he looks after 2 seasons without playing basketball. I mean, he'll still be a great shooter. I'm pretty sure of that. He'll still be a great 3-point shooter. He'll still have that 3-point gravity. He'll still be a smart player, but in terms of his athletic ability, he was never someone who relied a ton on his athleticism, but maybe his defense probably won't be as good. Maybe there'll be a bit less off the dribble and it'll be more spot up. You'd hope that he can still come off screens, that he can still interact and play with Draymond and Steph in, the Warriors offense where it's a lot of movement. He is a smart player, and it is nice to have someone who has played with the teams that did run those Warriors offenses with lots of off-ball movement and randomness. So I think just having Klay back, his shooting, his gravity, his 20 points a game should really, really help this team out. And then we'll see if he can get back to being a good defender or maybe a bit more off the dribble stuff. But yeah, it'll be good to have him back for the Warriors. Then at small forward, Andrew Wiggins averaged 18.5 points, 5 rebounds, and 2.5 assists last season, as well as 1 steal and 1 block. And I thought he was really good. Him and Steph were actually the highest scoring duo in the NBA in terms of total points. So that's something. I think with Klay coming back, I think he'll probably be doing a bit less off the dribble, and he'll be more of a 3-and-D guy, which I thought last year his defense was really good. Remember, he locked down Kawhi Leonard, and he was a good defender and a big part of why they are a good defensive team. I think offensively, he'll get more open shots created for him. I think there'll be times where he sets a screen, he slips it for a layup. I think, there'll be times where he's spotting up and he gets the ball because there's two guys going to Steph. If he's an active cutter, if he's willing to set screens and move, I think he will get good looks. I also think sometimes maybe he's running with the bench unit, or maybe a play breaks down and they will trust him to isolate. And his mid-rangers, they're probably not super efficient, but it's not the end of the world if he takes a few. I think the Andrew Wiggins superstar is sort of never going to happen, but he is a really good NBA player and could chip in quite a bit to this Warriors team. Then at power forward, Draymond Green averaged 7 points, 7 rebounds, and 8 assists last year, a stat line that maybe only him and Ben Simmons can produce. He was also top 3 in Defensive Player of the Year voting, and he was just massive for them defensively in terms of being able to switch, being a communicator, being sort of that backline, off-ball defender. He was just really, really good, and he really is their defensive identity. And between him and Wiggins and Klay, at least has decent size still, I think the Warriors can continue to be a good defensive team. Offensively, I also think with Klay coming back, his strengths will be more glaring and his weaknesses less glaring, where his playmaking and the fact they can handle the ball and is a super smart player will be shown with more shots created for guys like Curry and Klay and Wiggins, whereas his lack of scoring will sort of be hidden by having another guy out there who can score. There is still sometimes you wish he can make a floater, but that's just not his game, and his playmaking is still very valuable. It also allows Steph and Klay to play off ball. And then Wiseman last season averaged 11.5 points, 6 rebounds. He struggled a little bit, but he only played 3 games in college, and he was a rookie entering a team that expected to win. It was a rough situation. You hope that this year he has improved and he can be the starter. I think he has a ton of potential with his athleticism, and there was some handle showing. If he can be a solid defensive player and a rim roller with gravity, or just be the guy standing in the dunker spot so that when teams double Steph and he passes it to Draymond on the short roll, Draymond can throw a lob to Wiseman and things like that. I think the Warriors shouldn't give up on him. I don't think they have, but I think he has a ton of potential. I think hopefully that this year he can be a good starter for them and be able to stay on the court. Off the bench, Jordan Poole, I think he'll be the guy who starts without Klay. Averaged 12 points a game last season, and he gives them good offense. I think he's a good spark plug off the bench, has good shot creation, can shoot, but can also get to the rim. I like Jordan Poole as sort of a young guy who could maybe he could be in the 6th Man of the Year running this season. I don't see why not. I think, he fits the mold of a good bench player because he can give you some offense off the bench. Juan Toscano Anderson, I don't know how much he'll play, but when he does, he hustles for every loose ball. He's a solid defender, and I think the Warriors can afford to play more lesser offensive players if they want to this year because they have another shooter in Klay. I also think we'll see lots of Draymond at the 5 lineups where guys like Juan Toscano Anderson can play, and they can be more of a switchy team. Moses Moody, who they drafted 14th overall, he's a 6'5" wing who sort of fits into the 3-and-D mold, so we'll see what impact he makes. I think he's probably one of their more, out of him and Kuminga, he's probably a bit more NBA ready. Otto Porter Jr. averaged 10 points, 5 rebounds, and 2 assists last year. I think he's a good 3-and-D player when he's healthy. He has struggled with injuries. But they have a lot of wing guys who can fit into the backup small forward positions and can play and switch when they do play Draymond at the 5 and they do want to switch more. Iguodala, who they signed, he's still a super smart player. We'll see how much he plays, but I think he gives them someone else who has played with Steph, Klay, and Dre. He's a good passer, things like that. Jonathan Kuminga, their other rookie, he's a 6'7" wing with a ton of potential. He doesn't really have one skill that he's great at, but he can score. He averaged like 18 points a game in the G League, though it wasn't super efficient. And he has shown a lot of potential with like a handle, and he definitely has some skills. We'll see if he's able to make an impact right away. And then Kevon Looney, who is probably a solid backup big, can play when Wiseman isn't playing well. But I also think Draymond Green will be used as a backup center quite a bit. In terms of prediction for this team, I think the 6 or 7 seed, due to, the health. Klay isn't going to be there for the first little bit. I also think their age, they have like young guys like Moody and Kuminga and Poole, and then have like Curry and Klay and Draymond, who are probably just exiting their prime. So I think they don't really have, like, Wiggins is sort of like the only guy who's like in his prime. They also just have a lot of new players, and the Warriors system is a bit complicated, and it will take them time to adjust. So I think they could be a good team in the playoffs, and I think once Klay comes back, they could be on a run. But without Klay, they could struggle a little bit. So I think 6 or 7 seed, I think that's pretty fair. But anyways, thanks for watching this video, guys. Leave a like, subscribe to this channel for more NBA content, and I'll see you guys next time.